Many people may not know there are deserts in China, but as you can see on the map, deserts are a reality for China. Its deserts include the Gobi Desert, Taklamakan Desert, Gaban Tungut Desert, Badane Jaran Desert, Tengah Desert, Ulaanbaatar Desert, Muas Sandland, Hunshan Dake Desert, and more. And these deserts are expanding and posing a threat. But China is rising to the challenge by reversing the desertification process. How is China turning its deserts back into fertile land, and why are other countries adopting it? Join us in this video as we dive into how China is turning its desert into green forests. China is known for its more than 1 billion population. It is also known for its many rivers and water bodies and lush forest. However, not every square inch of China is covered in greenery. Apart from the major cities where concrete makes up most of the infrastructure, places where you can't see greenery are deserts. According to research, 27.4% of China's land is currently desertified, affecting approximately 400 million people. Desertification is actually a global problem. It is caused by the complex interactions of several factors, including climate change, poor hydrological conditions, poor quality vegetation and soil, and sandstorms. And to make matters worse, human activities are hastening the process through unsustainable exploitation of the environment and critical habitats such as deforestation. But what is causing desertification in China? According to scientists and policymakers, the causes of China's widespread desertification are a combination of human and physical factors. However, it is easier to discuss desertification when the massive impact of climate change on China is acknowledged. The Earth's land surface is warming faster than ever before, and declining rainfall can cause soils to dry out and become more prone to eroding. As the effects of human-caused climate change worsen, the situation for those already affected by desertification will worsen as well. However, overgrazing of vegetation in northwest China has also resulted in dunes losing their protective vegetative cover and becoming extremely unstable. Overgrazing by livestock is frequently cited as one of the primary causes of desertification, but the intentional removal of vegetation by humans also has far-reaching consequences for the land. And the problem is exacerbated in many rural areas. This is because most agricultural systems are powered by rain, and poor irrigation systems exacerbate land degradation in the area. Once the dunes have been stripped bare and the vegetation has been destroyed, physical drivers will take over as wind erosion accelerates the process of desertification and the problem unfolds. Another big agent of desertification is poor water. A lack of water retention in the ground below exacerbates the problems caused by overgrazing. For example, water and soil loss due to water erosion is frequently cited by researchers in the Loess Plateau in western China. The soil has little potential to recover or replenish moisture, with the local environment unable to retain water and anthropogenic activities exacerbating the problem to support livelihoods. An experiment conducted by a research scientist from the Department of Meteorology at the University of Reading has demonstrated how much longer parched soil takes to soak water compared to wet grass. But what impact has desertification had on China? This serious environmental issue's effects has had a significant impact on both people and the environment in China. It has been fingered for food production zones shift, crop failure, death of livestock, and crucial water sources drying up. Desertification impedes progress towards sustainable development by displacing entire communities, forcing them to relocate to new countries and communities as climate refugees. Internally displaced persons and forced migrants may seek assistance from other countries. These difficult situations can result in resource-driven wars for survival in response to food insecurity and water scarcity, jeopardizing the well-being and security of entire communities. And those who have not been forced from their homes are having to contend with violent sandstorms and dust pollution. And the bad news is that it's getting worse. In 2021, for instance, sandstorms shrouded Beijing and spread as far as central China. The storm is said to have affected 380 million hectares of land across 12 Chinese provinces and posed a major threat to human health due to the high levels of particulate matter in the air, which can wreak havoc on external organs and the respiratory system. This is a huge economic and health problem, so you may wonder if the government is doing anything about it. China is trying hard to not only stop desertification, but also to reverse the process in place where it's already happened. In 1978, the Chinese government launched the 3 North Shelter Belt Project. Its goal was to plant millions of trees along the 2,800-mile or 4,506-kilometer border of northern China's encroaching desert, while also increasing global forest cover. The Great Green Wall, the name given to this group of trees, will cost up to $8 billion. Another $1.2 billion will be spent on mapping and database oversight systems. The trees will act as a barrier or as a green wall to combat desertification and to absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. In addition, the afforestation would help to combat soil erosion and slow the rate of desertification. The ambitious project will last till 2050. By that time, about 88 million acres of forest will have been planted. And surprisingly, it was recently reported that the project is actually ahead of schedule, having already increased forest coverage in the zone from 5% to 13.5% of the 15% target. According to a report released by the Chinese Academy of Sciences, more than 7.88 million hectares of windbreak trees have been planted. 336,200 square kilometers of desertification have been reversed, and more than 10 million hectares of grasslands have been protected or restored over the last 4 decades. Simultaneously, grass and forest coverage on the Los Plateau have increased by around 60%, and silt buildup in the Yellow River has been significantly reduced. And NASA satellite images confirm that forest cover has increased in China over the last 20 years as a result of the Chinese government's various conservation efforts. The northern region's green cover has increased from 5% to 13.5% since the project began, and sections of the Gobi Desert are now blooming with healthy vegetation, fertile soil, and increased rainfall. Another notable positive result was the complete transformation of the Mawusu Desert in northern China's Inner Mongolia region into a lush forest. By 2020, 93.24% of the Mawusu Desert had been replanted. The desert areas, which were once among China's 4 largest, had almost vanished from the map. Meanwhile, China's fight against desertification involves more than just planting trees. A series of laws enacted beginning in the early 2000s address the issue by attempting to return some farm and grazing lands to forest cover or grassland. And this rapid progress is despite issues. For example, some aspects of the project have been controversial. For example, in the early years of the project, monoculture was used in some areas, reducing species biodiversity and allowing plant diseases to spread. Experts have also observed that people plant many trees in large ceremonies to combat desertification, but then no one cares for them and some of them die. Another issue pointed out is that the afforestation can exceed the carrying capacity of the land, dooming the trees to death without constant human intervention. As a result, the World Bank recommended in 2008 that China prioritize quality over quantity in some aspects of the project. But China is not resting on its laurels as it's still working on how to make the process even faster. And now it has a new weapon in its arsenal. The secret is a special technology developed by Chongqing Jiaotong University researchers in China that can convert deserts to arable land. The technology employs a plant cellulose paste that can significantly improve the ability of desert sands to hold water, minerals, air, microbes, and nutrients required for plant growth. This paste was applied to a sandy 1.6 hectare plot in the Mongolian Autonomous Region's Ulambu Desert, and like magic, the plot was gradually transformed into productive cropland capable of producing tomatoes, rice, watermelon, sunflowers, and corn. According to Jiaotong University professor Yang Qiangyu, the costs of artificial materials and machines for transforming sand into the soil are lower when compared to controlled environmental agriculture and reclamation. The plants grown in the sandy plot produced higher crop yields while using the same amount of water as crops grown in arable soils. In addition, the amount of fertilizer required to produce the crops was less than what is typically required for vegetable growth in other soils. Yi Jian and Zhao Chaohua conducted this study, and their findings were published in the English-language journal Engineering, published by the Chinese Academy of Engineering. The researchers' technique was also presented at the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. China's success in turning back the hand of time on desertification has inspired similar efforts across the globe. For example, a Norwegian scientist, Christian Morten Olesen, developed liquid nanoclay, or LNC, a special sand treatment that can change the dry character of sand particles by coating them with clay and allowing them to hold water. According to Olesen, using this method, any low-quality sand can be quickly converted into high-yield soil. Desert Control, Olesen's company, collaborated with Dubai's International Center for Biosaline Agriculture, ICBA, to conduct laboratory and field experiments to demonstrate LNC's potential in transforming the UAE's desert lands into lush green, fertile regions. Dubai is another place where desertification is an ever-present threat. Faisal al-Shamari, an innovator from the UAE, experimented by farming two lands, one treated with LNC and the other not. He discovered that the LNC-treated land used only 81 cubic meters of water to produce crops, compared to 137 cubic meters for the untreated area. Buoyed by this initial success, Desert Control plans to increase its nanoclay production to further accelerate the process of desert reforestation in the UAE. And on its part, the UAE government sees LNC as an opportunity to increase food security in the country. Egypt is another country with a large desert land area. In fact, more than 90% of Egypt's total land area is desert. However, the country is determined to halt desertification and convert its arid land to arable land. For this reason, Egypt has engaged in a number of afforestation and de-desertification projects over the years, including the use of nanoclay and compost soil formation. For instance, the Serapeum Forest Project has used treated sewage water to plant trees on 200 hectares of desert land. The government hopes to launch similar projects in the coming years to generate more arable land for farming operations. And the lone effort of Jadav Payeng deserves a special mention. Nicknamed the Forest Man of India, Payeng has transformed Mauji Island, a barren wasteland in Assam, India, into a productive forest spanning 550 hectares of land. Jadav began planting trees as a teenager to prevent soil erosion, and he continued to do so for the next 40 years throughout the Mauji region. And he has expanded his work by partnering with Fundación Azteca, an NGO aiming to plant 7 million trees in Mexico over the next few years. However, care has to be taken with reversing desertification because deserts actually play a big role in regulating global temperature. Their dryness encourages the concentration and formation of beneficial minerals such as potassium, borate, gypsum, nitrate, and more. If all of our planet's deserts were to vanish, the Earth's climate will almost certainly suffer, and the availability of various minerals may be jeopardized. Do you think we can win the war on desertification? Let's hear your thoughts in the comment section below.